to go ahead and get started.
Okay.
Thank you all so much for joining us. I'm just so pleased that Rachel agreed to do this. I have been a fangirl of her colorways for a pretty long time now. And I'm excited to talk about that and goats and your fiber studio and anything else that comes to mind this evening. So I thought let's get started. And Rachel, why don't you tell us a little bit about your business, and you have a few goats, so tell us a little bit about your property, and then we'll dive into some other things.
Okay. Sounds good. So I have been doing the fiber art stuff for probably about, I don't know, 35 years, something like that. And years ago, I had a sheep. I loved having my sheep, but it is so hot in Texas, and I found myself wanting to get some kind of fiber animals again. And so I started looking into the Angora goats. It turns out the United States, I think it's South Africa, is #1 mohair producer in the world. And then the United States is second, but Texas produces 90% of the mohair in the United States. So they actually love, especially in the hill country and out towards West Texas, but they're more suited to our climate. And as much as I love sheep, I thought, why bring a sheep here that, came from Scotland or England or whatever and, kill it with our heat.
Right.
So I decided to try the goats, and I have a little flock. I just have 6 goats. I got them about 4 years ago, and I have been learning a lot about Angora goats and mohair, and they've been a lot of fun. I like their small size. It's easy for me by myself to deal with them, to, give them their meds, or, if there's anything that needs to happen, I can handle it myself. So that's always a plus. But the neat thing about mohair is it is known as the diamond fiber because it is so lustrous. There's a great range of quality with Angora goats. You got all the way from rug quality to what is almost like cashmere. So when I started looking into it, I found this guy in Texas. He's been working with Texas A&M. He's been working on bloodlines for years, and he has come up with these goats that will produce a kid quality fleece for like 8 or 9 years.
Yeah.
So even though my does are starting to get older now, and so they don't have this tight of curls, the older ones, they still are super, super soft. And my shearer always says they're the nicest locks she's ever seen. So I am really happy with working with them.
I'm fascinated with that. I know that very specifically in Texas there is breeding toward that,
Yes.
that the fiber doesn't age out at the same
Yes.
rate.
Yeah. Yeah, it's really amazing. And the other thing about mohair that's unique is they say it has more dye receptacle sites on it than wool. So that means it takes the dye beautifully, it's shiny. And also, if folks have seen like Persian rugs, rugs from the Middle East, oftentimes those rugs are made with mohair, which of course the goats are from there originally, from Turkey and such.
Right.
And so a lot of those beautiful rugs are made with mohair, and that's why they have such beautiful rich colors. I mean, they use silk as well, but the mohair is common for doing that because the dye is so beautiful, and it wears like iron.
Right. Well, and I think it holds that dye,
Yes.
you know,
Yes.
it doesn't fade. It doesn't, yeah.
Yeah. And because of its the quality and the way it wears, it's also perfect for hand spinners who want to create, say you want a sock yarn. You wouldn't want to do all mohair because there's no crimp to it, but you can blend it with something like a merino, or all these other breeds that have all the nice crimp, and add a little bit of mohair in there, and it's going to give you that durability that you want for sock yarn.
Right.
So
Because
besides
it
that
doesn't
pretty
take
shine.
much, right?
No. I did some sock yarn recently, and I did, I think, about 20%. I don't, you probably don't even have to do 20%, but that was my idea of it.
Yeah. Yeah. I think even at 10, you get those qualities enough to
Yes.
notice them.
Yes. And I
Yeah.
would be interested to see how it does with your natural dyes. I don't do a lot of natural dyes myself, but
Yeah.
I think that would be really neat to see what
It,
you could do with
it's
it.
gorgeous. It's just, it's thirsty like silk almost. It just, if I'm gonna dye mohair and then wool, I want to either put them in together or put the wool in first because like silk, the mohair just sucks it up.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, which is really fun. It's always when you're a dyer, it's fun to see the dye happen.
Yeah. Yeah. On so differently on all kinds of different fibers and blends. I
Yes.
find that fascinating how dyes take or don't take in a blend with silk or,
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
plant fiber.
Yeah. And it actually adds interest to your finished piece, having that little bit of variation in there. So I
Yes,
like that.
for sure. So do you shear your own goats?
Well, that's an interesting story. I have had a lady who did my shearing, and she's a friend of mine, and she is actually getting older, and so she wants to cut back on her schedule. So this year I'm going to try doing it myself for the first time. So it may be a disaster. I don't know, but I'm gonna try shearing them myself, and I haven't actually done it myself before, but we're gonna give it a try.
It's an adventure.
Yep.
Are
Yep.
you
So I'm
going to
excited about it.
are you going to use electric or
I
hand
think
or
my plan is to start out with some hand shears. And if I decide that's crazy, then I will take the plunge and go with the electric. But I thought, well, I'll just try it and see if I can handle it or not. I'm
yeah.
always concerned with the electric shears. This is a complete dummy saying this, but it just looks so easy to slice them. I'm afraid I'm going to cut them. So I'm thinking, I think I'm going to start with the other first.
I sliced meat.
Oh, that's right. I remember seeing
Yeah,
that.
really,
Yeah.
it just glides across, generally speaking. I haven't cut the goats, but yeah, I did manage to get myself.
Make contact with yourself.
And what I didn't think about is that mohair doesn't have lanolin.
Uh-huh.
So when our shearer comes and does the sheep, he uses, I mean, he's got the industrial, all of that, but
Yes.
he doesn't change the blades. And when he came and did the goats, I think he went through maybe 4 sets of blades with 8 goats
Yeah.
because it doesn't lubricate the
Yes.
shears like the lanolin. I just didn't even think
Yes.
about it. So that's very
Yes.
interesting. And so when I got it, when I got into it, it's like, oh, well, that's why it dulls so quickly. And you just have to, you either have to be sharpening them or changing them. So
Yes. And I know that's something my shearer just would keep on dumping, lubricating them constantly. And I think she does change out as well, but she goes through a lot of oil.
yeah, now I dip mine, it's a whole different thing. Well, if you're looking for someone who's an expert on hand shearing, Ellie Gregory.
Gregory. Okay. I'll write it
Mhm.
down.
She and Karen of Lion Gate do their shows together.
Okay.
And she's had Angoras forever and raised and shown and all that. And she does hand shearing. I'm not,
Yeah.
I'm not a good resource for either, but I'll cheer you on.
Well, y'all keep watch. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, for sure. I don't do more than one a day usually.
Yeah. I'm thinking if I got one done a week, it'd be fine. I only have 6. It's not like I've got 30 of them. So
it's a lot. I like the fact that they're standing up. I don't
yes.
want to, it hurts my back just to watch the shear, the sheep.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
Yep. That's what I'm planning to do is put them in a stanchion and do it that way. My shearer, she's a good sized lady and she could manage them on the ground like that, but I'm pretty certain I wouldn't be able to.
yeah.
So,
Well, and horns, horns and hooves.
yes. Yep. I've had lots of polka dots on my legs from their horns when I'm trying to, get medicine down their throat or something.
Yeah, that was such a huge learning curve for me. We've had Nigerian dwarf goats, no horns, sheep, no
Yes.
horns. And then all of a sudden I had these bruises up and down my thighs.
Yes. I did learn you've got to prop their chin up far enough that they're not poking you, tilt it so they're looking straight up and then their horns aren't jabbing into you.
Yeah. Well, mine were just from going out and, like pouring the grain.
Oh, okay.
So, they're enthusiastic.
Oh.
All right. So let's change tech just a little bit. And I want to talk about, you were going to talk about gradient. So I want to talk about your colors are just, I could pick them out of a lineup, Rachel. They're just so distinct and so beautiful. And I can't put my finger on what it is, but I'm just so attracted to them. So talk a little bit through your process for us. And then I know you're going to do some show and tell, right?
Okay, sure.
Okay, great.
So a lot of my color inspiration, I do like seeing, things in nature a lot of times. Say it's, lichen on a tree or, water and rocks and all that kind of thing. You've probably seen my river rock colorway, and I have a Lake Superior colorway. So sometimes I come up with ideas that way. But then I also do these, you guys have probably heard of them, these color gradient studies, where let's see if I can show you this. Can you see that? Whoop, falling out. Can you see it? Let me see if I tilt that down just a little bit. I had it all nicely in order. Okay, so basically you take two colors. All of these are from two colors. It was green and orange.
Okay.
And you do all these different combinations with different percentages of those two colors, and you come up with this gorgeous, basically you've made yourself a recipe book with all these colors.
Right.
And so I do a lot of those color studies, and that gives me all kinds of, all different shades of green or browns or rust to work with. So I've done quite a few of those, and that really helps me when I'm trying to match colors to something, or say I want, lakeshore colors or whatever, so I can pull out some of those colors, and I've got the recipes already. I've got a formula sheet on the computer that I can go in and say, oh, okay, I've got 400 grams of this color, and it spits out and says, okay, this much of, red, this much of green. So it's very fun. I took some classes from Peggy Doney. I don't know if you're familiar with her. She's from Colorado.
Close, yep.
Yeah. So I took some classes from her, and she's the one that got me going on that color gradient thing. So let's see. If you want to see some of my latest colors, shall I go and show you some new colors?
Yes, please.
Okay. So this is, my picture is this tiny little picture. I can't see what you can see, but can you see that okay?
Yeah.
Okay. And I just got new labels. I'm very excited about my new labels.
Fun.
So this is Silver Lilac. That's one of my new colorways. A lot of my colorways end up being earth tones. This was another fun one we did last fall. This was Cozy Cabin. And I think one thing that sets me apart, I do the yarns and the fibers. I think something that sets me apart is the way I fluff all my rovings. If you've gotten rovings from me, they are all it's basically like pre-drafted. So it takes a little extra time, but it's fun to spin it.
But it's just, I think it's so important to do that. It's just really, it's ready. It's beautiful.
Yeah.
It's just so.
It does take an extra, it does take an extra bit of time for every braid, but it's
right, because you have to do everyone's right.
Yes.
Yeah.
So when we sit around in the evening, if I'm sitting around talking with my family or whatever, a lot of times I'm doing wool. I kind of wear everybody out with my wool everywhere, but it takes time. So it's good. It's kind of a brainless job.
So did your business start as a dye business?
You want to know my fiber history?
I do.
So I started spinning. I think the first time I ever touched wool, I was probably like 7 years old. Some friends of mine were wanting to learn, and us kids got excited. And so it was some dark brown, greasy wool. And that was like 7 years old. First time I ever smelled lanolin. So I kind of learned on the drop spindle. And then several years later, I was, I don't know, maybe 12, 13. I started, my grandparents every year gave us money as a birthday gift. They would give us $200 every year for our birthday. So I was saving that up. So when I was 13 or something, my parents and I went together. I bought a matchless shacked wheel. So that was I I won quite a few awards at the Taos Wool Festival. I had grand champion a couple of times. And so that was my first initial like focus was the spinning.
Okay.
Then I learned weaving and I started out with a little tabletop. Then I went to a big floor loom. I guess I'm spoiled. I was my parents' only daughter. So I went to a large loom, took up half the living room, and I loved it. And so that is really what I focused on for the next 20 years, 30 years off and on. And then it wasn't until maybe, I don't know, 4 or 5 years ago that I started getting into the dyeing. And I did with my weaving, I would sell it. Say we had a craft festival down South Texas, and I used to go there and sell rag rugs and scarves and little things here and there. But the dyeing, I guess, was really took off about 4 or 5 years ago. And I still do weaving. I have a draw loom and a regular loom. So I love to weave, but the dyeing really has kind of been more my business focus.
Okay. And you teach, yes?
I do. I work at a shop here in Texas. It's called Homestead Fiber Crafts. And I've been there for, I don't know, 17 years. And I would help teach spinning and weaving. So yeah, been teaching there. And I've recently cut back my time there. I'm there just a little bit on Saturdays for the most part now. And I'm focusing more here in my studio. But
Okay. And
so that's
you have a connection to a woodworker as well.
oh yes. So it's my dad, and he is not technically originally a woodworker. He has actually been a machinist for 40 years.
Okay.
But I had found some shuttles I loved, and we couldn't get someone to make them for us. So my dad is one of those people that can do anything. So I said, can you make shuttles? So yes, he makes gorgeous shuttles. And then he also makes the little Tockley spindles I sell.
Oh,
so
okay.
the Tockleys are a stainless shaft with a little bronze whorl on them. So we do that. And then
Specifically for cotton?
yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. And they're just a small support spindle. It's not very big.
Right.
But if you're wanting to learn to spin cotton, it's a fantastic way to learn because you're doing the long draw, and it's much easier to learn with a spindle than on a wheel.
Okay.
So yeah. I've actually recently said, if anybody wants to learn to spin, start on a drop spindle. Don't start on a wheel. It's challenging trying to keep the wheel going and your feet going and your hands going all at once. So
right. Yeah, they're two very different things.
It is. So if you can learn to draft on a spindle first, it's super helpful.
Right. Huh. All right. Okay. So at some point, what did you say? 4 years ago, the dye part became a part of the business?
Yeah, I think it was probably about 4 years ago. I really wanted to find something that I could work from home and support myself. And I felt like that was, an avenue that I felt like it really could make it. So trying to make that work.
So in the process of that, you built a building?
Yes. So here comes the spoiled daughter again. I said, Dad, I really need a studio. I started out, I used like those restaurant cookers, like you would put a steamer pan in. And I also raised rabbits, is another story, but I raised rabbits.
Oh.
And yes, they're Holland lops. They're not fiber rabbits, but they're very cute. So I was doing that, and I was working in my rabbitry. I have a very nice rabbitry. And so I would set up my cookers on the counter, and cook, and then when I wasn't using them, they'd be stacked in the corner of my little rabbit barn, and that could only go on so long. So we bought a piece of property that's got this, oh, what would you call it? It's like a huge red barn, but it's got a dog trot in the middle. So one side we made into like a little barn dominium, and it's got a B&B in it. And then this other side, which is 20 by 60, we finished out for my studio. So I now have beautiful workspace, a big commercial sink. I have storage area. 20 by 40 is the studio. And then I have a 20 by 20 area is my storage. So I'm very, very happy to have space that I can work and think and make coffee and just get done when I need to get done.
Well, and you're not picking it up and putting it away and putting back, right?
Exactly. Yes.
That's
so
nice.
You can actually organize things, and I still have shelving and stuff I want to put in, but yeah, it's really been fantastic.
It looks like you're
place to work
behind you.
Yes. Working on that.
Nice.
So I'll be going to some in-person shows later this year, and I'm starting to really try to build up. So I have a lot more stuff that's ready in stock rather than doing everything dyed to order. So this will be really the first year that I tried to have large quantities of things made up ahead of time. So that's a big shift for me, to do. I know I'm, very small compared to a lot of other dyers out there still, but I don't know, today I probably did 30 skeins of one color in a few different yarn bases. So kind of feel like I'm jumping off the diving board here a little bit.
Yeah, that's exciting though.
I'm super excited about it. So I've got a color palette of 13 colors I'm working with.
Okay.
And that's going to be coming out this summer. Some of the shows that my yarn is going to be in is up in the, what do you say, in Montana area. So I wanted to do kind of an earthy color palette. And so that's what I'm working on, and I'm excited about those colors.
So tell us about the festivals that you're going to.
Okay, so I'm actually working with a friend of mine. There's 2 festivals in Montana. We're going to work together. Her business is Gray Cliff Woolworks.
Okay.
She is in Gray Cliff, Montana. She has a real tiny little shop, so we're going to kind of work together. So the first one will be at the Copper K Festival in Whitehall. And then a couple weeks later, there's another festival in Billings, Montana. So we'll do both of those together. I can't remember what the name of that one is, like Maws or something, MAWS, or you probably know of it. I'm not totally familiar. Okay.
I know Copper K, but I don't know the other one.
Okay. So I think it's like guilds from all over Montana go to the one in Billings. So it's another.
Okay.
It's supposed to be a fun festival. So I'll be there. And then in the fall, in September, it's not officially out, but I'm scheduled to be at the DFW Fiber Fest as well in September. And that's a big festival. So, and I'll have my own booth then.
Okay. Oh, that's exciting.
Yeah.
Traveling a little bit to Montana.
Yes. I actually have a little family out there too. So it'll be fun to have an excuse to be out there.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Cool. All right. So I'm trying to think about what else we were going to talk about. We talked about the goats. We talked about, so talk to us a little bit about other places that people can find you.
Okay.
You have,
go
ahead.
Okay. Well, I'm on Facebook. It's my business page is Crafted by Locals, and then same thing on Instagram. It's at Crafted by Locals, and I have a website as well. So if you want to visit my website, it's craftedbylocals.com. That's my website. You can find me there anytime.
Oh, I was going to ask that. Okay. So, and they can shop on your website?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
And if anybody, like, I have certain yarn bases and fibers that I try to keep somewhat in stock, but if, I've got, I don't know, it's probably at least a dozen different yarn bases that are available. So if somebody wants a different size, I'm always happy to do custom orders like that as well.
Okay.
So
What about the mohair?
I do mohair as well, and I have that undyed, and then I have that available in a lot of colors. And I've started doing some blends of colors too, and that's a lot of fun. So you can get, say a fall colorway that's got, 6 different colors in it, and it's all in one package. So that's fun.
With the locks.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
All right.
Yep.
All right. Let's open up to questions.
All right.
So if you want to, now's the time to unmute yourself. If you have a question for Rachel. We have a nice audience tonight.
Hey, Catherine's on here. Hi, Catherine.
Hi. So this is more of a request than a question. Do some more spinning demonstrations. You're so
Okay.
good at it.
I was thinking about, actually, I had thought about repeating those that I did last year or whatever, and then adding some other ones. My plan was to kind of present it as Spinner's Toolbox and giving you different tools to create the yarn you want to create. So for the project, for the end project, it's not all yarn is created equal. So that is something I would love to do. And please tell me if there's other topics. I know I've talked about worsted and woolen, but if there's other specific topics, I will do my best to bring that in.
Well, thanks to you, I'm knitting a sweater that's probably only going to take me another 3 or 4 years, but it will not weigh 47 pounds thanks to your demonstration on woolen spinning.
So that's wonderful. I'm so glad. I think you were doing a Shetland wool.
Yes, I was. And well, it's all spun. Now I'm knitting. So
that's fantastic.
Yeah,
That was one of the amazing things that I learned about different wools all over the world, that different parts of the world spun differently depending on what type of sheep were common in that part of the world. So like in the Shetland Isles, they spin woolen, and say where they've got, no, everything's going to leave my head. But the longer, straighter wools, they spin worsted. It's kind of like they intuitively spun it the way that now we think, oh, we've made this great invention of spinning worsted and woolen, but they've been doing this for centuries. We just didn't know.
That's so interesting. I mean, I guess you wouldn't think about it like that, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Somehow we think we've, invented something super modern, and it's not. We're just relearning something.
Huh.
So Rachel, spinning demos would be awesome.
Okay.
Spinning demos as far as taking your gorgeous braids with all those beautiful colors.
Yes.
And spinning for either keeping the color together or muting the color or making a yarn that doesn't self-stripe. Those are all, because I mean, you've been spinning since you've been what, 7 years old? So you've been
something like that.
You've been spinning forever.
Yeah.
That would be
now
wonderful.
I have to say, okay, so I learned when I was a little girl, but it's not like I've been doing it every day since. You kind of go through seasons in life. So there's sometimes where I'm all into it and that's all I can think about it. And then you take a break and you focus on something else. So that's my disclaimer. I did learn when I was 7, but I didn't do it like, every day.
No, I get it. And then of course you weave,
Yes.
so you have that beautiful studio.
Yes.
And so do you have your looms in your studio also?
My looms are at my house still.
Okay.
So but I could do some demos on the looms too if somebody has a specific request. I could do something over there. We have a big, a separate room for doing crafts and stuff there. So I could do some weaving demos. And I haven't done much. Somebody asked recently about rigid heddle. I know how to do it, but I haven't done a lot with it. So I'm not the best person for rigid heddle stuff.
Can you
Because that was going to be my
talk a
next
little bit
question.
about the draw loom and how it works? I've seen what you've woven on them, but the concept is foreign to me.
Yes. So basically, you have petals like a normal loom. I think right now, both of the draw looms I work on have 6 petals underneath, and it creates I think it's called a broken satin or something like that, a 6-shaft broken satin. And they have kind of convoluted names. But basically, you have your foot petals, and then you have a pulley system that's, up in front of your face up here. You've got all these pulleys. You have your pattern, like say you've got a flower and it looks like a cross stitch pattern, basically with little X's for your design. Each X corresponds with one of your pulleys. So when you pull that pulley, it raises those threads for that part of the design. So, normally say you're making a flower, you're going to have maybe 10, 15 pulleys that are pulled. And so then you would weave, depending on how many threads you've got in each block. I would weave maybe 3 rows, and then I go up and change the pulleys for the next part of the flower. So you have 2 things going on, your petals and your pulleys. Those both work together.
Oh.
So,
So is that like overshot?
no, you can do all different weave structures. You can do double weave. I don't know if you guys ever saw it. One of my friends did a double weave coverlet. She did it on the draw loom. It just kind of opens up the whole block weave idea. You've got kind of endless blocks. So you could do huck lace, but have a whole bunch of different, you're not limited to the number of your shafts.
Oh.
So, and originally they say that the draw loom originated near China at around 300 AD. They found, old looms that were like draw looms. But the original ones, and still today in China, you'll find there's a weaver and then there's a second person sitting on top who they call the draw boy. And they would have chants and rhymes and songs that they would sing that would help them remember their pattern. So, but then the Swedes came along, and I always say, well, the Swedish people don't like to talk to anybody. So they worked out this pulley system. So you can pull your own threads. So that was a Swedish invention.
That's funny. Much like the Norwegians.
Exactly. Yes.
That's fascinating though.
Yeah.
I love it when like music and rhythm coincide with things like that.
Yes.
That historical
Yeah.
piece is just really so rich.
Yeah. Yeah. It is really neat. And you'll see it really. And I said huck lace, but I'm thinking like satin weaves or turn twills or all that kind of thing. That would be probably more the type of weave structure you would.
So how wide is your draw loop?
They come in different widths. Basically, the ones that I use, basically you start out with just a regular countermarch loom. It's a Glamocra. So it's, I don't know, the one I have at home is maybe 47 inches, 45 inches wide. And then if you want to add a draw loom to that, it's like an attachment that you put onto your regular loom.
Okay.
Then the one I work on at work is more like 60 inches wide, but you can get narrow ones. Even the little Julia, the Glamocra Julia loom, it's a 24-inch loom, and you can put a little a little draw loom attachment. You can't do, 50 pattern shafts on a Julia loom, but you can, I don't know what their max is, maybe 20 or something.
Okay. Huh.
So
so many things with weaving.
I know. So, and the draw loom does take time to set up, because when you're threading it, you go through 2 sets of petals. You've got all your pattern shafts that are attached to your pulleys, and then you have to thread your ground shafts. So when we set up the draw loom, we put on maybe 40 yards or something. So we really only have to redo that a couple times a year. It is a big deal, but you just do enough so that it's worth your time.
So your warp you're using that warp with lots of different.
Yes, just the kind of stuff, I guess, that I've done. You know, we do a lot of towels or table runners or things like that, that it's, you know, just kind of a generic warp, and then we put the colors in the weft.
Okay.
I guess obviously if you were doing plaids or something, you wouldn't want to do such long warp, but
Right, because the warp has to vary, right?
yeah, you probably wouldn't want 40 yards of the same color.
Right.
So
Thanks, Catherine. That was a great question. I'm fascinated.
yeah.
Well, I just, while you were talking, I just looked up and I found a picture of this with the pulleys, and the picture that just popped up. There's a lot of pulleys that you can
Yes.
work with. I mean, obviously,
Yes.
depending on the size of the loom, but I
Yeah.
remember one time you posted some towels you had done, and my brain could not fathom how you did
Yeah.
it.
Yes. Yeah, it's the pulley system. And the looms I have, I think we have 48 pattern shafts. It's 48 of those pulleys we can pull. So that means we've got 48 squares we can draw our little design on, you know, so that gives you quite a bit of design capacity.
Yeah. Plus, you've also got pedal or pedals, right? I mean,
Yes.
not pedals, pedals.
Petals, yes.
Yeah. So that's, I mean, that's expands that possibility even more.
So,
Not
sort of,
really.
but the petals are doing they're creating your, what do you call it?
Shed.
The word is, I lost the word. The weave structure.
Oh, okay.
That's what makes it satin or twill or whatever.
Okay.
Is those ground shafts, that the petals are connected to the ground shafts. So they're basically like creating your background.
Okay.
So that's not really the picture part.
My brain just can't even wrap around it.
I'm sorry.
No, that's
I'll do
okay.
a video one of these days.
No, it's something I'm gonna have to do some research on because I'm very interested. Little lumen rigid heddle is about
Yes.
as far as I can, think.
Yes. Well, we do some stuff here at the shop in Texas where folks can come and rent loom time. And so we have ladies come and weave on there who will never own a draw loom, but we show them how to run the pedals and the pulleys. Sometimes they'll even come in with their own pictures they want to weave. So that's your best bet. If you don't want to purchase a draw loom, it is a big thing to buy something like that. I mean, I think they're probably $10,000 brand new. Or Joanne Hall, she's up in Montana. She does draw loom stuff. She probably let somebody come weave.
Sometimes I think a barn loom.
Yes.
I have a barn.
Yeah, that would
Those
be
are
fun.
big too.
Yes. Yeah. But you can make some awesome stuff on those barn looms.
Yeah.
You can really get tighter weaves on those, some of those bigger looms. You can get your cloth packed so much tighter.
Right.
So.
All right. Any other questions, gals?
We kind of got off the subject of goats.
Okay, so I'm gonna ask another question. So when you're choosing your fiber that you're using to create your colors, are you going by popular demand, or are you like, okay, I mean, I love your two-tone BFL fiber, okay?
Yes. Yes.
You know that.
Yeah.
Absolutely love it.
I do too.
And I know, right? It just takes the color so gorgeously. So when you're looking for fiber for your braids and stuff, are you going by like popular demand? Because I mean, I know you have the merino one, and you've got the yak one, which is just like, I wish the color I wanted came in that yak. Hint, hint.
Yeah. Well, you tell me what color you want.
I know. Rachel, I have 2 totes full of Rachel's fiber. And so I have to start getting that stuff spun up because I really don't have room to put another tote in. Honest to goodness. But so, I mean, how do you choose the fibers? Do you choose it how they take the dye? Because your colors are just phenomenal. So do you choose it that way, or do you choose like Rachel, as I'm saying to myself, I love the way this feels, this is what I'm gonna do? Or do you have, people say, can you do this fiber, or is this something that you can do? I mean, how do you choose the fiber that you want to use?
Well, I think probably the short answer is popular demand. Of course, I do pretty much everything in BFL and silk. Everybody loves that combination. But I have been kind of slowly working expanding what I'm offering for fibers. I think BFL and silk is probably still my most popular, even though I'm adding other ones like the mixed BFL and the Falkland, and now I've added that yak and silk blend. The BFL and silk is just by far the most popular. So I usually, at this point, I will for sure do, when I'm dyeing, a new colorway, I'll for sure do the BFL and silk, and then just pick a few of the other ones that I'm, want to try it on. And sometimes if it's a light color, like a pastel, it's not really going to show up that great on the yak blends, even though I love the yak, it's not going to show up that great. So the darker, richer colors show up better on the yak blends. So sometimes it just has to do with what colorway I'm working on as well.
Okay. Well, you answered two questions, because it's like the fiber itself also determines as to what colors are going to go on it, which you said the yak will not take the lighter colors because it just doesn't show.
Yeah.
So that makes a lot of sense. That makes a lot of sense. Awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Same,
I love your colors.
same kinds of decision making around yarns as well, I assume.
Yes, oftentimes. And I've done some special, like special requests with, pastel colors, like say something like this on the yak. But I always worry about whether or not folks are going to be truly happy with it, because it's so subtle. I mean, you can see it, but it's very light because of the yak is that beautiful brown color. And so it just not everything shows up well on it.
Yeah.
So.
So are there any colorways that you've retired?
Seemed like there was a couple that I took off the website recently, and now I can't think what it was. But usually I keep them around, and if somebody wants it, I'll do it again as a special order, even if I'm not focusing on that colorway at the time. The trick is to keep good notes. I found that out recently. I went to dye a lavender and couldn't find my notes and did the wrong color, and I had thought it was a great idea to do a big batch of it while I was at it.
New colorway.
Exactly. Yes, I have this lovely periwinkle instead of lavender.
Oh, well, someone will love it, right?
Exactly. Yeah. So.
Well, I think that gradient is such an interesting process, right?
Yes, really is. It's amazing what just different percentages of those two colors, and it comes up with, 36 colors from those two colors. The most amazing thing to me was doing red and green. It makes all these pinks and purples and greens and blues, and I mean, it's amazing. We did polar red and green together, and it just comes up with the most amazing colors that I wouldn't necessarily have thought. Maybe, smart color people would know that, but I didn't know you could get so much.
Right. Yeah.
So is the gradient going to be something you're going to be offering as like, okay, lack of a better word, a sample box type thing?
Well, I haven't ever done that. That would be really fun. It's, it's 36 colors. So I don't know. I guess it would depend if somebody, if I thought there would be a market for something with that many colors in it.
You should put a poll on your Facebook page and say, hey, I'm looking at thinking maybe expanding, whether it's 12, 24, 36, a quarter of an ounce, a half an ounce type thing. And yeah, I mean, you got a lot of followers there, you know,
That's a great
Rachel
idea.
on your page, and put a poll out, and, you know, I mean, expand.
Yeah. Thank you. That's a great idea.
You are welcome. I always come up with the good ideas as I'm sitting back here going, no, I'm trying to spin this without it giving me a striped fabric.
Do you ever do the fractal spinning when you split your braids?
You know, um, I have watched Jillian Morano. I have one of her books, and on how to do. I just get it. I just recently. I love your braids. Okay, you are the one that actually got me into color. Everything else was all natural colors, no mixed colors. But I saw your braids, and it's like, oh no, I got to have that. I just, you know. So when I first started getting your braids, it's like, I think was the Briar Rose was one of my first ones, and it's like, okay. So I went through all the Briar Rose braids, and I pulled out the color I wanted, and I spun that single color out of all the braids. Okay, made my yarn, used it for what I needed to use it for, and so now I'm left over with the rest of the stuff. And then I said, I have to figure out how to spin this. Okay, so I mean, I have split them in half and split them in eighths and run end to end, and I mean, it's all kinds. Believe
Well,
me,
I'll try to
I
do some of those little talks about color and stuff too, so maybe that'll help you.
That would be a great demo. As a person who, aside from, you know, splitting and spinning, doesn't know what else to do with a braid, I would
Yeah.
love, I hear about this fractal magic, but I don't understand.
Yeah, it's easy once you get it, but I think it's the word fractal that throws people
Right.
off.
Well,
Sounds
and
like
Yeah.
math, and so it just sounds too hard.
and sometimes it's
I would love that.
terrifying to
Absolutely would love that.
separate that
That would be
braid.
great.
Scary. You know, you've
That
got
would
the
be
braid,
awesome.
you can split it, but
Yes,
separating it's scary because you can't put it back to, I mean, you know, I guess you
that's
can put
yeah,
it back together again. So
right. Yeah,
Well, the trick, Teddy, is after you've spun, then you have to finish the yarn,
right.
and then you have to knit with it. Okay. Well, for me, I have to knit with it and see what that yarn combination is going to, what kind of fabric it's going to give me.
Right.
Okay. And then at that point, it's like, yes, I do, or no, I don't. And then try another type of spin. So there's a lot of sampling that goes when you're doing any kind of color spin. Unless you have somebody like Rachel to say, I will show you how to do this. I will sign up for your class, girl. I'm first in line.
okay.
Well, and that makes me think about how differently, let's say, just a self-striping spin would
Mhm.
look, you know, knitted,
Yes,
crocheted, woven. You know, weaving is
Yes.
pretty straightforward, but it wouldn't have to be, you know.
right.
So that, you know, that would be a really interesting demo series
Yes,
based on what you were going to do with that yarn.
yeah, yeah. Yes, I like this. I'm getting
That
all
would be
kinds of ideas
that would be fascinating.
for my toolbox series.
Yes.
It's
Oh, I love
fantastic.
that. All right. Anything else, gals? We're closing in here on the hour, but I want to make sure that anybody has any questions has an opportunity to do that. The quiet group tonight.
Yeah.
All right. Well, this was lovely. Thank you, Rachel.
All right. Thank you very much.
So fun to learn about your business and everything you're doing, and what great ideas from the folks who
Yes.
are here. So that was
Yes, absolutely.
all right. So
Well, thank you so much for having me.
my pleasure. All right. So in the next, what's today, Tuesday? In the next few days, there should be a whole bunch of Fiberside chats that head to YouTube. including this one.
All right.
Just when that weird stuff happened with Facebook, I got signed out of YouTube or the WAFA YouTube.
Yeah.
So everything is edited except for this one. This one I'll edit tonight or tomorrow. So there'll be a
Okay.
them out there. So all right.
Sounds good. Thank you so much.
Everybody,
Thanks,
for joining
Rachel.
us.
Thanks,
Thanks.
Teddy.
Thanks, Rachel.
Good
Great.
night.
Thanks,
Thank you,
Teddy.
Bye. Have a good night.